Bulletcast for life.
Welcome, boys and girls, to episode 9 of Under the Radar. My name is Brandon, and on today's episode, we got a jam-packed show with G1 Climax results, NXT results, some indie news, as well as the series premiere for Miz and Mrs., and we will always have the Total Bellows recap that I know you guys all enjoy. So first off, let's go with some indie news. The worst kept secret in professional wrestling, as Dave Meltzer put it on The Observer today, is Matt Riddle looks like he's going to WWE. Matt Riddle, former UFC fighter, has had some incidents with marijuana and drug testing, which led him to quit UFC and MMA, and he has gotten into the world of pro wrestling. He's really taken off on the indie scene. I don't exactly know how long he's been wrestling on the indie scene, but I mean, he's a good wrestler. I've seen a few of his matches. He's done PWG, he's done other stuff. I saw him on, was it Joey Janela's Spring Break? He had his own show on WrestleMania weekend where it was no ropes, and it was kind of like a fusion of MMA and wrestling. It was an interesting show. I saw he main evented with Minoru Suzuki. But I mean, I'm a big fan of Matt Riddle. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be the next big thing. He's gonna be the top guy in the company, but he has a great look, great body. You know, he has a laid-back personality, very charismatic. Maybe the only thing that's holding him back is he doesn't talk that well. He doesn't have great promos. But I mean, let's be honest, Roman Reigns doesn't have that great of promos either. He has the credibility with the indie fans, which is always a plus when it comes to guys like that coming in. So it looks like he might be making his debut, maybe not a debut, but he might be making an appearance as a guy sitting in the crowd at NXT Brooklyn. We saw Keith Lee do that last time, and he turned up on the NXT TV tapings with a match. Don't exactly know what. I just heard that he was on the show, so we will have to wait and see what Keith Lee's doing on NXT television. But Matt Riddle, it looks like he is on his way to WWE. He's canceling indie bookings. He's had a bow out of the PWG Bola tournament. He's on a CZW show, I believe, this weekend, and it's being advertised as one of his last indie dates before he goes to WWE. So, Matt Riddle, I think it'll be fun. I'm going to the NXT TakeOver in Los Angeles in November, so hopefully that'll be his first real big match in NXT. And it'll be fun to see Matt Riddle live. So yeah, shout out to Matt Riddle. Hopefully, you know, he stays healthy. He does all the stuff. And yeah, so let's jump on into the G1 Climax results. I have not watched Night 8 yet, but I have watched everything else up to that point, so we're just going to kind of go through the block standings and some matches that have kind of stood out to me and everyone, just kind of overall thoughts. So on the A block through Night 7, obviously, we had Night 8, which would be the B block, so this doesn't really affect what happened with Block A. We have Switchblade, Jay White, and Evil, as well as Hiroshi Tanahashi, all tied up at the top with 6 points. We have Okada at 4 points, as well as Michael Elgin, Minoru Suzuki, and Togi Makabe, all with 4 points. And then Hangman Page, Bad Luck Fale, and Yoshihashi all have 2 points. So let's just kind of work our way down. Switchblade, Jay White started off the tournament hot, beating Okada as well as Tanahashi. He's kind of coming to his own. As I said, he lost his last match with Michael Elgin, I believe, and he also lost against Suzuki. Or I forget. It's a lot of matches going on because I missed a good week being in San Diego, and then I caught up and I watched G1 matches for like a good 2 straight days. So they all kind of run together. But Switchblade, Evil, and Tanahashi all at the top. I would say maybe Switchblade is maybe a favorite going forward just because he's been built a lot, but he had the strong 2 wins going up in the first 2 matches. Maybe he's going to falter at the end. Okada back there at 4 points. I think Okada's definitely a favorite to go up and maybe reach the finals. I think him and Tanahashi are probably bound on that last night to be a semifinal matchup. Evil, I mean, Evil's good. He had a good match last year with Okada. He's had good matches this year. But I just don't see him being in the mix and in those final the final night being in contention for the winner of the A block. But Okada's story thus far is that he's kind of been down in the dumps. He hasn't really caught his groove yet. He lost his first couple matches, and then he won his last two matches, so it seems like he's on the up and up, but he's still not the same Rainmaker Okada that we've come to know and love. So maybe he kind of gets around, he kind of gets his footing down, mid to in the later half of the tournament. I think maybe he's going to fall short to Naito or Tanahashi in the finals or semifinals, and to really keep it going with the story of Okada being in a funk. That's really been the story thus far. He has his red hair, he has his balloons, and he keeps coming out with different balloons. He smacked Rocky Romero in the face with the balloon last time. So I'm still predicting Okada and Tanahashi to be there that last night to be the decider of who wins Block A. Now on the bottom half, Minoru Suzuki kind of being a shocker, has lost a couple matches thus far. He was in the same spot as Okada, lost his first couple matches, and then he comes back and wins his next two matches. So, Suzuki, I didn't expect him to win, but I thought he was going to have a strong showing, and I think right now he's going to probably go on a tear. Michael Elegant, also one of those guys who's just kind of in the mix. He's going to have a good match with almost anybody. Don't expect him to win a whole bunch of matches. Makabe as well. These three guys right here are all kind of like in the same category. They're going to have great matches. They're going to win most of their matches, but they're not going to win all of them. So they're not going to be there in the mix on the end of the night. And then we have Hangman Page, whose first year in the G1, putting out good matches, had good matches with Okada as well as Tanahashi. Seems like he's over with the crowd, especially with the women. I think the women kind of love him in his little cowboy attire. But Bad Luck Fale kind of still building up on the Bullet Club OG storyline. A lot of disqualifications in this G1 Climax. It's kind of the story, especially with the Tongans. Bad Luck Fale and Tama Tonga have been disqualified at least 2 times, I think. And Kevin Kelly has been going over. Kevin Kelly has been fantastic throughout this entire G1 special. He's just coming out with all the facts. Being a sports fan, I love all the stats saying when he does this, he wins this many matches after the fact, or coming out of a loss, he tends to bounce back. And just going, especially with guys like Tanahashi, Suzuki, Okada, all these guys who have who's been in the G1 Climax for many years. They have a lot of stats and they have a lot of different numbers that they can throw at you, and it's really interesting. It makes New Japan a sport, makes it feel like a sport, and that's one of the reasons why I like New Japan, honestly, the way they present their product more than WWE at this point. But Bad Luck Fale, as I said, he's been getting a lot of disqualifications. Obviously, he's not going to have a great match with he's not going to have, the best match on the card, probably. He might surprise us every now and then, but probably not. And then Yoshihashi, he's just there, lonesome at the bottom, as he usually is. He turns it up, as I said last time, but he's not going to do anything special. But in terms of matches, it's kind of hard. I can't really remember a lot of them off the top of my head, but definitely the A block is probably the weaker block in terms of match quality, but there's still good matches. You got Evil, Minoru Suzuki, Tanahashi, and Okada. They're all going to deliver great matches, but I think the B block definitely is the block that's setting a high standard for the other block. And let's just get into that. So we have the B block standings. We have Kenny Omega, the lone leader, on top. This is obviously through night 6, so this does not count the night 8 standings. I have not seen anything of what happened. I do not want to see what happened. But next week we will talk about everything and everything that happened on that night. So we have Kenny Omega on top with 6 points. Ishii, Naito, Kota Ibushi, and Sonata all bunched together with 4 points. Then we have Zack Sabre Jr., Hiroki Goto, Tama Tonga, and Toru Yano at 2 points, and then poor old Juice Robinson, the U.S. champion, down there in last place with 0 points. So just working our way back, Kenny Omega, IWGP Heavyweight Champion, what more is there to say about this man? He's won all of his matches thus far. He's been great. He's had great matches with Naito. He had a great match with Goto. He's having his match with Juice Robinson coming up that happened yesterday or today, however the hell you call it. But he had his match with Tama Tonga, which was kind of something that we circled on the calendar to see what they were going to do with that match, and then it ended up just being a disqualification, which was a little bit disappointing. But I think that's kind of a way to get Kenny Omega and Tama Tonga to have a match maybe in the December or November pay-per-view, whenever that timeline is, just to kind of have like a blood feud. And because Tama Tonga isn't going to, I don't think Tama Tonga is going to beat Kenny Omega by any sense for the IWGP Championship, but just kind of Kenny being able to call out Tama Tonga for all the bullshit that's happened during the G1, and just kind of wanted to maybe put an end to this once and for all. Maybe they have a cage match. I know Kenny Omega's one of those guys who has had like first time ever matches in New Japan. He had the ladder match with Elegant, and he's had the no DQ match. He's had the 2 out of 3 falls match. So he's usually gonna have those special matches. I don't think they're gonna have a cage match for this, but I'm just throwing some stuff out there. So next up we have Tomohiro Ishii. He's one of my favorites in New Japan, very underrated in my opinion. He's had great matches with Kenny Omega last year for the U.S. Championship. He's had great matches this year. I mean, he and Hiroki Goto, they had the main event on night 6, I believe. Yes, him and Goto went at it tonight. Was like they're just going to beat the fuck out of each other. And that's basically what happened. It was a great match. Naito, once again, having great matches with everybody. Let me see if I can kind of go back and... No, I was going to try to go back and kind of see all the different matches that Naito's had. But, him and Kenny, talked about it last time, had a great match between the two. Probably one of the best matches in the G1 thus far. I mean, a lot of matches on the B block are can't miss. They're even like, the bottom card matches, they're going to be great. Even Toru Yano. Toru Yano has been delivering great matches. Him and Kota Ibushi had a fun match on night 6. That's how Toru Yano got his first win. So Kota Ibushi kind of figured going in, he had his run with DDT, and they've had crazy matches. So you would think that they were gonna do some wacky shenanigans on that. Zack Sabre Jr. went up against Sonata as well as on night 6. That was a great match as well. They kind of did playing up that Sonata was kind of out wrestling Zack Sabre Jr. and Sonata was able to get the victory over ZSJ, and a little bit of an upset there. Naito and Juice Robinson, another great match. I mean, night 6 was a great show, but I think probably if you're looking at the best show or the best match, the best, night, I would say, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely going to be a B block show. I think is the best out of the thus far 7 or 8 shows that I've seen. I mean, I think probably night 4. I would say probably night 4 is probably one of my favorite ones. You got Kenny Omega, Hiroki Goto. You got Tomohiro Ishii against Tetsuya Naito, Toru Yano and Zack Sabre Jr., Kota Ibushi against Juice Robinson, and then Sonata and Tama Tonga. I mean, all of those except for Tama Tonga and Sonata are fantastic matches, all different in their own special way. And then even with the Tama Tonga Sonata match, you have a little bit of the OG Bullet Club going up against LIJ. And you have shenanigans. I mean, the best spot in the entire card and the entire G1 spot was Red Shoes flipping off the OG Bullet Club guys and giving them a disqualification. Probably the best spot in wrestling this year. I mean, I popped huge for that. I was not expecting Red Shoes to do that, and I had a big kick out of that. Some of the detractors are saying there's too many disqualifications on this show. I mean, on this tournament, and I can see what their gripe is, but I mean, they're kind of telling a story, especially with the OG Bullet Club guys with Tama Tonga and Bad Luck Fale. They're kind of the guys getting the disqualifications, but I mean, I'm kind of holding out judgment until the very end just to see what they do, because it's something that New Japan doesn't do all that often with disqualification. So if they're going to do it a lot this one tournament and then walk away from it, or even they're going to stop doing it towards the end of the tournament and kind of get serious, I can see that happening. But I think right now, I mean, it's getting kind of aggravating, but I guess that's the point, because it is wrestling. You're supposed to get mad at Tama Tonga and Fale and Tongaloa for all the shenanigans that they've been doing. But yeah, so definitely check out the G1 Climax. I've said this last week. It's a steal for only less than like $9. You can watch just the G1 Climax on New Japan World and get all these matches. You're basically stealing New Japan's money at this point for all the great matches that they're coming up with. And Kenny Omega with some breaking news. He said on Being the Elite that he's working with a heel injury. So just another reason to show how great Kenny Omega is. Doesn't really show it on the shows. But I always kind of cringe a little bit when a wrestler is hurt and they're like, "Oh, I do it for the love of you fans" and all that other stuff. Just like, no, get healthy and make that money. Don't try to kill yourself for my enjoyment. Because if I know you're hurt and you're doing all these things that make it even worse. Because Kenny Omega's done 2 spots where he's jumped off the top rope into the crowd, and it's just. It's crazy, and it's just him working with the messed up heel. It only takes one bad jump or something to really mess up plans for Wrestle Kingdom and the rest of the year. And even maybe contract talks with WWE. If Kenny Omega gets hurt, maybe WWE kind of either lowballs him or doesn't come calling anymore. I don't think Kenny Omega is going to be with WWE. I don't think he's going to sign with them this time around. Maybe next time around. But we will have to see about that. So, onwards to the NXT recap. A very big show. We had the NXT Championship match between Aleister Black and Tommaso Ciampa. This, I believe, was the big news coming out of the television taping. I was sort of able to avoid it, even though when it's in big, bold letters saying that there's a huge, shocking title change at NXT, in knowing that this match was coming up. It was basically a spoiler, but I was always trying to tell myself, no, it's not. It's something else. But I didn't read it, so I don't know if there's another shocking title change to come. But I would assume that they were talking about this show here. So July 25th. Once again, taped at Full Sail University, we have the North American champion Adam Cole going up against Sean Maluta. A virtual squash match for Adam Cole. Adam Cole takes care of him rather easily. And then we have Ricochet coming out, talking about how Adam Cole doesn't really defend his championship all that often, even though for the commentators, they were talking about how he does defend his championship all over the place, even in places outside of WWE, which he defended against Walter at an Evolve show, I believe, and kind of setting up the match between Ricochet and Adam Cole at NXT Brooklyn. So I'm really looking forward to that. Adam Cole backed away from Ricochet, and then he gets some backup and he gets some balls once the rest of Undisputed Era minus Bobby Fish comes out with them, and the War Raiders come out, then they scurry away, then Undisputed Era scurries away, then Mustache Mountain gets them, they beat him up for a little bit, and then Undisputed Era scurries away once again. So it looks like we're going to get Ricochet up against Adam Cole for the North American Championship, and maybe a triple threat tag team match at Brooklyn with Mustache Mountain, Undisputed Era, as well as the War Raiders. So that will be definitely a fun match to see. Brooklyn thus far, if it looks like they're going to build up all the matches that they seem like they're going to be building up to, it's going to be one hell of a show. Don't know if it's going to be the best show ever, but Brooklyn definitely is like kind of the WrestleMania for NXT, because they kind of like the first big one that they did outside of Full Sail. It has the history with all the big matches that they've had there, and with it being usually the WrestleMania shows are great, but for some reason just the Brooklyn shows and the history that they have behind it, it seems like that's kind of the biggest show for NXT, and they're really building towards that. So they went backstage for a thing that happened earlier on in the day with a contract signing between Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler. William Regal was there to oversee the contract signing. Shayna Baszler kind of went over her different things and saying that people forget that there was another match after the Mae Young Classic final where Shayna Baszler beat Kairi Sane. And Baszler just kind of going over simple things, just saying that she's going to beat Kairi, and choke her out, and she's going to hear and still NXT Women's Champion Shayna Baszler. Both of them signed the contract. Baszler walks away, and throughout the little interaction, Kairi Sane kept saying that she knows it, Shayna knows it, that I can beat her. It was kind of a weird segment, not a weird segment. It's kind of weird delivery and weird writing for Kairi Sane, just saying the same thing over and over and over again. But I thought it did a good job kind of laying the foundation real quick, just kind of saying that, oh, right now it's going to be the rubber match. Each of them have beaten them once. Shayna Baszler has been on a run. Kairi Sane, she's always difficult to deal with. But, I mean, right now it looks like Shayna, I would say, would be the betting favorite just because of the run she's been on right now. Right? I mean, currently I would probably say Shayna's beating Kairi Sane just to kind of build her up to a unstoppable monster. I don't exactly know who the final person to beat her is going to be. I mean, I keep saying that I would love to see Candice LeRae beat her. I mean, we have, 4 months to heat Candice up to be the hottest thing in the women's division. I mean, they can do it. I would like to see them do it. It's just kind of hard to see who they want to be that person to dethrone Shayna Baszler, because I think they want to call Shayna Baszler up sooner rather than later, especially with the connection to Ronda Rousey. We all don't know how long Ronda Rousey is going to be with WWE. I mean, Ric Flair said that she wants to have kids, so after that match with her and Charlotte at WrestleMania, that might be her last match with WWE. I mean, who knows? Maybe they call up Baszler so they can get the 4 Horsewomen versus 4 Horsewomen match at Survivor Series. But we will have to stay tuned and find out. So the next step, we had a close-up of Tommaso Ciampa in some sort of shipping container, just kind of sitting there just waiting for the match to begin. Then we have some clips of EC3 and Velveteen Dream facing Ricochet and Aleister Black in the UK Championship and blah, 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 blah. We have Lacey Evans going up against Tanilla Price. Another squash match. Lacey Evans going over strong in 2 minutes. Good match. Lacey Evans looking strong. Definitely getting over her character as a lady. And, being vicious. And the woman's right is her finishing maneuver with the right hand punch. Oh, not a real big fan of punches being finishing moves just because it is wrestling. And I always thought that closed fists are illegal in pro wrestling. But apparently not in WWE. New Japan, they say don't do closed fists, but even when they do it, they don't get disqualified. But I already talked about it. Maybe somebody gets disqualified in the G1 for doing a closed fist. I doubt it, but we'll have to see about that. There's a backstage interview with Bianca Belair. She talked about how the interviewer asked her that since she was hurt, if we can get any update. Bianca Belair didn't really say anything. It said that it was no one's business to tell how she was. She kept repeating that she's undefeated and she's going to come back and get what she deserves, just kind of going over and over again. Simple promo from Bianca Belair, kind of hammering home that she's an annoying heel, a confident, cocky heel. Just good stuff from here. Just hopefully, I don't exactly know what Bianca Belair's injury is. They didn't say what it was. I haven't really looked it up. But I would assume that it's a legit injury and she wasn't able to wrestle in the match. And Bianca Belair, I mean, she's a good heel. Maybe Kairi Sane does beat Shayna Baszler and she's kind of a transitional champion to get it on Bianca Belair. I still don't think Bianca Belair is ready right now. I still feel she's too raw as a wrestler. She's still kind of green in the ring. Bars. Yeah, so I think Bianca Belair definitely has some time to grow. I think maybe WrestleMania weekend is going to be her time, or maybe even the Royal Rumble for her to have her big takeover debut for that championship. So then we had a segment with Shayna Baszler and Candice LeRae. They were yelling at each other. They're going back and forth. LeRae slapped her, and then Serena Deeb pulled LeRae away. So still heating up, keeping that feud between Candice LeRae and Shayna Baszler strong. I mean, this is kind of the second time they've done this type of backstage pull apart between the two. So that's why I'm saying it looks like they're going to go to Candice LeRae and Shayna Baszler as the next feud for her. So that's why one of the reasons I don't think Kairi Sane's going to win at Brooklyn. I don't think she's going to be... I mean, Kairi's kind of... People like her. I just don't feel like they have a strong connection to her like they will have with Candice if Candice ever gets her time to shine and have promos and get kind of. I mean, it's a real easy comparison to make it to Johnny Gargano. So I kind of try to keep it away. I want to don't compare it to her husband, but they're kind of just like the same character. They're undersized baby faces. They're likable. They're good wrestlers. So, I mean, if you tell the same story for Candice LeRae as you did for Johnny Gargano, I mean, I think it can be a real success for her. She can kind of be the next Bayley, be a top women's star in the division. I mean, you can get Candice to beat Shayna Baszler. You have Shayna Baszler go up to the main roster and do her thing with Ronda. And then you can have the Bianca Belair match. Have Lacey Evans come down the road. I mean, that's basically it right now on the heel division. They have Lacey Evans, Bianca Belair, and Shayna Baszler. So Baszler gets called up, and all they have is Belair and Lacey Evans. Both of them aren't that great of wrestlers, in my opinion. Lacey Evans is getting better. Bianca Belair can be really good down the line, but I think right now she's too green. She's a great athlete, but kind of like Naomi. She's a great athlete, but I think right now she's just hasn't put it all together at the moment, but her athleticism's kind of able to mask the greenness in the ring. So I was going to have to stay tuned to see what happens with that. Next up in the main event, we have Aleister Black and Tommaso Ciampa for the NXT Championship. Tommaso Ciampa came out as usual with no music, just getting berated with choruses of boos. Aleister Black comes out like a little vampire that he is on his, I don't know what you would call that, I don't even know. You know what it is. He lays down, he gets pulled up by this little board thing, and he looks like a vampire, and music's blaring, and it's a great entrance. So, let's see. How long in total did the match go? The match went 22 minutes, so a long match. It started around the half-hour mark, ended the show. So we all know, I knew it was going to be a good match, because it was, I mean, these two can really deliver. They kind of started off slow. They were kind of, I wouldn't say it was boring, it just wasn't pulling me in, but definitely the last act of the match was definitely great. Tommaso Ciampa gets the padding off the outside, pulls it up, exposing the concrete. They go back and forth, teasing something on the concrete, doesn't happen. Great near fall with Ciampa hitting Black with the crutch. I thought that was it, but Black was able to kick out. The ref takes a bump on the outside, hits his head on the concrete, so he's down for a while. And then we're all waiting for Johnny Gargano to make his run, and he finally does. Ciampa was trying to hit Aleister with the championship. Gargano was able to block it, but then they were kind of wrestling. Him and Ciampa were wrestling with the championship. And Gargano pulls it away, and by accident, Gargano hits Black with the championship. And then Ciampa hits his finisher for the win. 1, 2, 3, and Tommaso Ciampa is your new NXT champion. Great match. I mean, the expected interference from Gargano, I think it worked great. It kind of told the story. Gargano kind of being over anxious, trying to stop Ciampa from winning the championship, and he's the reason why Ciampa won the championship. So, it's gonna be fun to see what they do here. Do they do a triple threat between all three? Do they just do a straight up match between Gargano and Ciampa for the championship? It's gonna be fun to see what's gonna come out in Brooklyn. I think having the championship in the feud is definitely the only logical way to have the third and final match between Gargano and Ciampa, just because they kind of did everything. They had the hardcore matches the first two times, and now having this, if it's what it looks like, is having them go one-on-one for the championship. Even if you have Aleister Black thrown in there, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'm not the biggest fan of triple threat matches, but I think Black is kind of the character to kind of... He can be the character to be like, Gargano, I know you really want this, face Ciampa, and I'll be waiting. I'll face whoever wins. And then maybe that leads to Aleister Black turning heel, possibly being bitter over Gargano costing him the championship after Gargano beats Ciampa, possibly at Brooklyn, and you can get Black turning heel, and you can have that feud going into Survivor Series weekend. So, all in all, really good show. Definitely just kind of a match show in terms of this. You know, they had a bunch of squash matches, some promos, but I mean, the reason you're going to watch this is for the Aleister Black Tommaso Ciampa match. The really great ending sequence, last 5 to 7 minutes, was fantastic. I mean, they started off a little bit slow, but I think they really picked it up in the end. The crowd was hot. Hopefully, I believe this is. I mean, I don't exactly know how NXT tapings go, so maybe they kind of just do it in chronological order. So the crowd was hot for this one since it was the first show that they taped. But definitely go out of your way and see this. NXT, I keep saying it, is probably the best weekly TV show that I watch on a regular basis. I mean, to be honest, all I watch is Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. I should be watching Impact Wrestling, and Lucha Underground and ROH, but there's just so much stuff, as well as watching sports, it kind of all piles up. But I'm definitely going to try to start watching Impact more often, and maybe we talk about Impact on the show, especially with Slammiversary happening last weekend. Heard some good reviews about it, heard stuff. I mean, good for Impact. If they're really putting their stuff together, it looks like they're kind of going down the hardcore route, which isn't exactly my cup of tea, but I mean, if it drives in good business and people like it, and it's a different product, and it's goodly. If it's nicely written, good for them. So, the moment you've all been waiting for, the Miz and Mrs. Or maybe we should do Total Bellas first. It could be in chronological order, but I already started off. We have Miz and Mrs., the series premiere, the show with Miz and Maurice. This debuted minutes or seconds after SmackDown went off the air, and the whole show is this episode is kind of built around Miz and Maurice kind of preparing to move to Austin. Maurice is still pregnant with Monroe Sky, who possibly made her debut on SmackDown. I don't exactly know. I didn't do my research if that was actually her kid or not. I would assume it was her kid that was shown in the limousine. But at the moment, Miz and Maurice are still pregnant. That's what Miz says, that they're pregnant. So that's the way I'm going to talk about it. They kind of go over some pregnancy things, talking about Maurice being pregnant, her getting bigger boobs and being gassy, and all the lovely things that come with being pregnant. They talk about a pregnancy photo shoot. They go to Raw 25. They kind of see everybody there. They see her and Maria kind of showing off their baby bumps, which is a cool little moment there. Maurice, that was all. I totally forgot that this was the show where Miz beat Roman for the Intercontinental Championship. This was only 6 months ago, but it felt like a year ago. I completely forgot about that match. I kind of remember it, but then when I saw it, I was like, oh, Miz is going to lose. Roman goes over. And then I totally forgot that Miz won the match, so that kind of just shows how great of a wrestling fan I am and how great of a memory I have as well. They were going to do an implied nude photo shoot, and Miz called Maurice and talk about it, and for some reason Miz's phone died, and he gets to the photo shoot. Maurice tells him to go change, even though Miz didn't ask what's he wearing. He just assumed since all he heard was nude photo shoot. The Miz strips down all naked with his Big Mike hanging out, as he called it. Big Mike made an appearance on the show. He walks out with two other women there, as well as Maurice, and his cock and balls hanging out. And craziness ensues as everyone's embarrassed, and Mike's like, what the hell's going on? And then they do their photo shoot. The Miz kind of sits down seductively, kind of like how Maurice would, by covering his boobs and sticking his stomach out. Just, great modeling by the Miz. So Miz is a busy man. He was on the set of the Challenge, and the Miz and Maurice are moving to Austin, so they went over some decisions about how they're going to move. They decided they were first going to take a Winnebago, drive from LA to Austin, but Maurice didn't want to do that. Maurice wanted to take a private jet, but of course the Miz said that's too expensive, so they kind of met in the middle and got a tour bus, a John Cena-sized bus, to drive cross-country because they have 2 dogs, 2 cats, as well as Maurice's mother. So, yeah, Maurice's mother did not make an appearance on the show, but it seems like she's going to be kind of the third wheel on some of these shenanigans. So that was basically it, just kind of talking about Maurice and Miz preparing their move to Austin, Miz getting naked, and some other stuff. So coming up on the show, I mean, obviously they're going to have the Monroe Sky being born. They're going to have the gender reveal. They're going to have all these different things going on. So yeah, that's it for the Miz and Mrs. So the next up we have Total Bellas review, the penultimate episode of Total Bellas this season, the second part for the Bella twin or Nikki Bella's bachelorette party in Paris. They get to Paris. Brie and her sister-in-law's, whatever you call her sister-in-law, they do some sort of mime teachings because they wanted to show Brie or Nikki how fun she is. They go all over the place. They do some things. The Bella twins' brother, her mom, and some other lady, I don't know if it's her mom's friend or something, they TP the house and other stuff. They have a party. They have a little masquerade ball. Some strippers come out. Nikki Bella gets a lap dance and feels up all on their abs and stuff. Yeah, that was about it. I mean, the Miz and Mrs. It's only a half hour, but Total Bellas is an hour. So the Miz and Mrs. Maybe they have to get some stronger ratings or to show that they have a great following. Maybe in season 2 they will be able to get a hour-long time slot. But the Miz and Mrs. It's kind of like Chris Lee knows best. It's kind of like over the top, and the Miz is kind of annoying, or really annoying in some circumstances. It's kind of like, the real world Miz, where he's just kind of all over the place and just really eccentric and just kind of annoying. Kind of the reason, I mean, you can see why people really hated him back in the day when he was kind of a rookie and he was kind of really excited and kind of all over the place. They also in Miz and Mrs. They kind of go over the backstory of Maurice being in the Total Diva search and Miz being one of the judges there, or the host, I guess. And that's kind of how they met. So yeah, that is it for Under the Radar. A lot of wrestling discussion, lots of wrestling shows, and then we kind of ended on a whimper talking about Maurice's big boobs and Nikki Bella getting a lap dance. And we talked about the Miz's penis. So the Miz all informed us that the national average is between 5 and 7 inches, which is a really big gap if you think about it. I mean, 3 inches, that's all, or I mean, I guess 2 inches. But anyway, who's counting? So thank you guys very much for listening. Follow us on different social media platforms. Follow me on different social media platforms. Cheese510 on Twitter. The first E is a 3 because I was cool back in high school, and I, doing all that other fun stuff. And then Cheese_510, no 3 in that one, just Cheese_510 over on Instagram. Follow the Bullet Cast on all these other places, and also follow my other podcast that I do, Curveballs and Chair Shots, with my boy Dominic, where we talk about sports as well as wrestling. Big stuff going on in sports. Khalil Mack holding out. Apparently hasn't talked to John Gruden since he got hired. My team, the A's, the hottest team in baseball. Chris Davis absolutely destroying the Texas Rangers at the moment, so stay tuned for that. And as always, everyone, goodbye and good night. Back.